Sarah had always heard tales of overbearing mothers-in-law, but nothing prepared her for Helen. From the moment Sarah married James, Helen's presence loomed large in their lives. At first, Sarah welcomed Helen's frequent visits as a sign of familial closeness. After all, she thought, it was natural for a mother to want to spend time with her son and his new wife. It started innocently enough. Helen would drop by unannounced with freshly baked cookies or a new plant for their garden. Sarah found these gestures endearing and appreciated Helen's efforts to make her feel welcome in the family. But soon, Helen's well-meaning gestures turned into something more intrusive. During one visit, Helen noticed Sarah organizing the kitchen cabinets. Without asking, Helen dove in, rearranging pots and pans, spices and utensils to what she deemed a more efficient layout. Sarah, who prided herself on her organizational skills, felt her frustration simmering beneath the surface. "I'm just trying to make it more efficient," Helen chirped, oblivious to Sarah's growing irritation. Sarah forced a smile, her hands clenched at her sides. "Ah, great idea. I never thought of that," she managed to say through gritted teeth. Later that evening, Sarah couldn't hold back any longer. She confided in James, her voice tinged with exasperation, about how Helen's constant interference was starting to drive her crazy. James, torn between loyalty to his wife and his mother, promised to talk to Helen about respecting their boundaries. The next weekend, Helen dropped by again, full of energy and ideas. As Sarah prepared dinner, Helen hovered in the kitchen, offering unsolicited advice on everything from seasoning the roast to setting the table. Sarah felt like she was walking on eggshells, trying not to offend but desperate to maintain control over her own home. Finally, as Helen began rearranging the kitchen cabinets again, Sarah took a deep breath and mustered her courage. "Helen, I appreciate your desire to help, but I prefer to organize things in a way that works best for me. It's important for me to handle these things myself." Helen paused, her expression caught between surprise and offense. "But I'm just trying to make things easier for you," she protested. "I understand, and I appreciate your intentions," Sarah replied firmly, yet kindly. "But I need to do this my way." The tension hung in the air, thick and palpable. Helen seemed taken aback by Sarah's assertiveness, but she nodded reluctantly. "All right," she muttered, her voice tinged with disappointment. From that day forward, Sarah and James navigated a delicate dance with Helen. They set clear boundaries, gently but firmly asserting their autonomy as a married couple. Helen's visits became less frequent, and when she did come over, she learned to respect Sarah's space and decisions. Over time, Sarah and Helen developed a cautious rapport. They found common ground in their shared love for James and their mutual desire for his happiness. Sarah even came to appreciate Helen's wisdom and occasional help, once it was offered respectfully and with consideration for Sarah's preferences. As the years passed, Sarah and Helen's relationship evolved into one of mutual respect and understanding. They learned to appreciate each other's strengths and navigate their differences with grace. Sarah became a more confident wife and eventually a mother, secure in the knowledge that she could assert herself without jeopardizing her relationship with her mother-in-law. And through it all, Sarah learned an invaluable lesson about the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for herself in a respectful manner, a lesson that strengthened not only her marriage, but her own sense of self. Mike's mother, Karen, came to be known in their household, was a character straight out of a family sitcom, though her antics were anything but amusing to Emily and Mike. Karen's interference in their lives was pervasive and persistent, blurring the lines between care and control. It began innocently enough, with Karen calling Emily several times a day, ostensibly to check in on how things were going in their marriage. However, the frequency and nature of her inquiries crossed from concern to discomfort. Asking about their sex life was just the tip of the iceberg. Karen seemed insatiable in her curiosity about every detail of their relationship, from finances to household chores. Emily, trying to maintain harmony, initially brushed off Karen's intrusions as harmless maternal concern. But as time passed, the constant scrutiny began to wear on her. Karen's unannounced visits to their home under the guise of dropping off food or helping with chores became increasingly frequent. It felt as though Karen was not just interested in their lives, but actively trying to recreate her own marriage through their relationship. The breaking point came one day when Emily couldn't take it anymore. She summoned the courage to confront Karen, choosing her words carefully but firmly, explaining that while they appreciated her love and support, they needed their own space to grow as a couple. Emily emphasized the importance of boundaries in maintaining a healthy relationship, a concept that seemed foreign to Karen in her well-meaning but overbearing approach. Karen, initially defensive, countered with protests that she was simply showing interest and trying to be involved in their lives. To her, meddling equated to caring deeply. It took Mike, caught in the middle of this familial tug-of-war, to intervene. He sat down with his mom and had a heart-to-heart conversation, gently but firmly explaining that while they valued her involvement, it needed to be on their terms and with mutual respect for their boundaries as a married couple. The conversation wasn't easy. There were tears, misunderstandings, and moments of frustration. Karen struggled to reconcile her maternal instincts with the reality that her son and daughter-in-law were adults with their own lives to lead. Gradually, though, she began to understand the impact of her actions on Emily and Mike's relationship. With time and patience, Karen started to pull back, learning to give them space while still offering her support in ways that respected their autonomy. Through this ordeal, Emily and Mike's bond grew stronger. They learned to communicate more openly about their needs and to confront challenges together as a united front. Karen, too, evolved in her role from a well-intentioned meddler to a supportive mother who understood the importance of letting her adult children chart their own course. In the end, the meddler became a tale of family dynamics, boundaries, and the delicate balance between love and independence. It highlighted the complexities of navigating relationships as they evolve from parent-child to adult-adult, and the importance of mutual respect in maintaining healthy family ties. Rachel's relationship with her mother-in-law, Susan, was fraught with tension and a sense of suffocation, stemming from Susan's intrusive and overbearing behavior. From the moment Rachel became part of Susan's family, she found herself under constant scrutiny. Susan's habit of calling multiple times a day seemed innocuous at first, but it quickly escalated into a form of micromanagement. She would inquire about every detail of Rachel's day, from what she was wearing to her plans for dinner, leaving Rachel feeling like her every move was being monitored and judged. Even more intrusive were Susan's unannounced visits. Whether showing up at Rachel's workplace or dropping by their home unexpectedly, Susan always had a reason, often framed as helpfulness with errands or household chores. However, to Rachel, these visits felt invasive and controlling, undermining her sense of autonomy and creating a constant state of unease. The breaking point came when Susan crossed a line by accusing Rachel of laziness because she chose to be a stay-at-home mom. Rachel, already struggling with feelings of being belittled and undermined by Susan's constant interference, was deeply hurt by this judgment. It was then that Rachel's husband, seeing the toll his mother's behavior was taking on his wife, intervened. In a pivotal conversation, Rachel's husband firmly reminded his mother that Rachel's choices regarding her career and lifestyle were hers to make, and she did not deserve criticism or interference. He asserted Rachel's autonomy and stressed the importance of respecting her decisions as an adult and as his wife. This conversation prompted Rachel to confront the issue head-on. She realized that she needed to establish clear and assertive boundaries with Susan to protect her own mental and emotional well-being. Rachel decided to have a candid conversation with Susan, expressing how her constant calls and uninvited visits made her feel suffocated and undermined. She emphasized that while she appreciated Susan's concern, she needed space and autonomy to manage her life and household in her own way. The conversation was challenging, filled with tense moments and emotional revelations. Susan, initially defensive, struggled to understand Rachel's perspective, viewing her actions as expressions of care rather than control. However, through open dialogue and firm insistence on boundaries, Rachel gradually succeeded in making Susan realize the impact of her behavior on their relationship. With time, Susan began to respect Rachel's boundaries more consistently. She learned to dial back the constant calls and visits, instead finding ways to support Rachel that were respectful of her independence and choices. This shift marked a turning point in their relationship, as Rachel and Susan found a healthier balance between connection and space. Ultimately, Rachel's journey with Susan underscored the importance of assertiveness, communication, and mutual respect in managing complex family dynamics. It taught Rachel the value of standing up for herself, setting boundaries, and fostering relationships based on understanding and respect. Through this process, Rachel not only reclaimed her sense of autonomy, but also strengthened her bond with her husband and found a more harmonious path forward with her mother-in-law.